This is a scholarship that gives you the opportunity to study in at least, emphasis on least, at least two countries in Europe, fully funded, like
Covers a broad range of fields. So far, I think Erasmus Mundus is perhaps one of the scholarships that covers from end to end. It's really difficult not to find any field that doesn't have a program on Erasmus Mundus Masters. If you look from the point of simplicity, or I will put it easy to apply, the Erasmus Mundus is very, very interesting and outstanding.
hey guys, welcome back to Chilo Talks. My name is Chioma. I'm a Nigerian currently living and studying in Japan. Guys, today we're talking about a scholarship that particularly gets my attention. And of course, by the time I tell you the benefits, you understand why it gets my attention. Guys, this is a scholarship that gives you the opportunity to study in at least, emphasis on least, at least two countries in Europe, fully funded, like it's a fully funded scholarship. You get to graduate with double degrees, like double degree honor in masters or double degree honors in PhD. Like, I call this scholarship touring and studying, like living the baby boy or baby girl's life and still studying, right? And when I thought about doing this or bringing this on this platform, I was like, there is definitely no better person to grace this channel and give us this kind of content than Dr. Casey. Guys, a brief one. Dr. Casey has been on this scholarship. He's a recipient of this scholarship. He has a double degrees from masters, double degrees from PhD, and he's currently, working in Germany as a research scientist at P&G. So this already gives you just a little insight of how how massive this scholarship is. And this is definitely no other scholarship than the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. So guys, let's get right into this video. So guys, help me welcome Dr. Casey. So Casey, can we briefly meet you? And
Hi,
first
Choma.
of all,
Yeah.
thank you very much for like gracing our channel. Thank you for making our time from your busy schedule to like grace our channel with content. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on your channel today.
Yeah. So please, can you like briefly introduce yourself?
So my name is Kelechi. Like you rightly said, Nigerian, like you. I've done my first degree in industrial chemistry in Futo, and then I moved to Europe for the Erasmus Mundus Masters between Germany and France on advanced materials engineering. And for my PhD, I did what is known as the European Joint Degree in Functional Materials. And this was a double PhD program between the University of Bordeaux in France and the University of Castro Institute of Technology in Germany. And my research was focused on developing sustainable ways of making materials from cellulose. So really design of materials. And currently, yes, I'm a research scientist at Procter& Gamble.
Thank you very much, Casey, for that very powerful introduction. Like, it's a privilege having you on this channel. I can say that for sure. Okay, you made mention of Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, and that is definitely one very big scholarship when anyone is talking about, considering scholarships to come over to Europe. So, like, can you like talk about like briefly explain this scholarship?
Okay, so the Erasmus Mundus Masters or the Erasmus Mundus Master Scholarship, as the case might be, is a particular or kind of a special scholarship that is funded by the European Union.
Okay.
And so what happens is that it's quite unique in that it awards a double degree at least. So you can also have situations where people have to be in three different universities. But at least you have to be in two universities. So each of those universities gets to give you a degree. It's a 2 year master's program, 120 ECTS for these 2 years. And it covers a broad range of fields. So far, I think Erasmus Mundus is perhaps one of the scholarships that covers from end to end. It's really difficult not to find any field that doesn't have a program on Erasmus Mundus Masters. Another interesting point with this Masters is that they are applied most times. So they are applied sciences or applied engineering or applied arts. So it's always a matter of how you can apply what you know or the basic science into making something. So, for instance, I came out from chemistry like you, but I did a master's on advanced materials engineering, which was basically application of chemistry and physics and mathematics, right, into development of materials. And that is the same for many other courses. So, another interesting thing with the masters is that it allows you to travel a lot. So I think for us, we're basically rigmaroling around Europe for
Scholarship
the
that
two
makes you a
years.
tourist.
And so you put it really nicely. And in fact, another interesting point that I really like about the masters is that you do not have any obligation. Okay. So the worth of the scholarship as of this year is 49,000 euros for 2 years. And so for this, from this 49,000 euros, your tuition fee is paid off. And typically students get at least about 1,000 euros every month. And also I think 3,000 euros when they come into the country or when they first move into the country, and like 1 or 2,000 relocation fee. So eventually you do not have to explain how you want to spend your money. You do not have to come back to your country if you don't want to. So you do not really have any obligation like some of the other scholarships. So yeah, definitely a scholarship that is definitely worthwhile.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now you said something and you kept referring to it masters, masters. Is this scholarship for only masters?
Yes, so the Erasmus Mundus itself, as the scholarship, is for master's degree. Now, just to give you a bit of composition, how the scholarship is, how this master's program is organized. So basically, you have what is called consortium. So means a group of universities, or let me put it like some departments in universities come together and they create a master's program.
Okay.
In my case, I did the functional advanced materials engineering. It's called the FAME Masters. And this masters then was made up of 7 different universities in 4 different countries. So you had like 2 universities in Germany, 2 universities in France, 2 universities in Belgium, and I think there was one university in was it in the Netherlands? I can't remember. But what happens is that this departments, if you might want to put it this way, come together and they create one master's program. Now, every student is supposed to move from one university to another. But for some cases, especially in my own master's, which is very rare, they had like a continuation of a PhD program. It's not a continuation of the masters, but the same group of people that formed the masters also decided to form a PhD program, right? And so the PhD program was also funded by the EU, but it's not like Erasmus Mundus Masters. It's more like it was called then like European. It was kind of a European doctoral program or something like this. So really depending on the specific program, they might have an extension into a PhD, but the scholarship itself, this particular scholarship is definitely just for masters.
Oh, okay. So that means going on to PhD is not like their obligation at that point. You have to source for PhD, or maybe your university could be as also as opportune as yours, and then person can get funding. Oh, okay, okay.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. So now I get that you've explained, like you've given us like a preview of what Erasmus Mundus Scholarship is about. Now, when the call for applications like officially flags open, what are the procedures? Like what are the process? Like for me, as example, I know that when the scholarship opened up for Japan, I had to send application for supervisors, send documents. For my category, I wrote an exam, then got shortlisted. For those, so there are different procedures that one has to take to get the almighty email of congratulations, you have been awarded the scholarship. So can you like run us through how the process works for the Erasmus Mundus Masters?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you look from the point of simplicity, or I will put it easy to apply, the Erasmus Mundus is very, very interesting and outstanding.
Why? Because when you apply to the program, in the application itself, you would be asked if you want to be considered for the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, right? And just by ticking on that application, you would be considered. Now, I would come back to explain the two different types of Erasmus Mundus scholarships. Now, the Erasmus Mundus Masters itself doesn't award, or let me put it this way, not everyone that is on the Erasmus Mundus Masters program is on Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. So what they do is, maybe in a class of about 20, they would get 12 scholarship or thereabout, and the other people can be self-funded, but you have to be admitted into the program. So some people can get admitted, but they do not get the scholarship, right? Now, in terms of the process, like you explained, so each of these programs, I think as of last time, there were over 100 programs on the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. So over 100 programs spread across different fields that are on the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. Now, each of these programs is different. So the Erasmus Mundus itself is going to award this scholarship, but each program is managed separately with its own process that is difficult at times to say you can apply it to the other programs, right? So maybe the requirements of a program will be completely different in terms of how you apply. Like traditionally, you first of all have to apply, like you would go online. Once the application is opened, you create a profile and you apply. In the application form, you would have to answer some questions. Maybe you also have questions on essays, or you are asked to write a motivation or a statement of purpose or a personal statement, and upload your CV and have all of those stuffs ready. And you might also be asked like English proficiency exams, and they might give you the code of the school that you should send your score to. But when you do all of these, for some programs, that is enough. Once you submit, it's all. You don't have to do anything else. You just wait for them to come back to you if you have been shortlisted. Now, for some other programs, they would ask you to submit online like you have done, and also print out the application form and send it by post. When I applied, the aspect of legalization was a bit less. Like I could go to a court and then get swear like an affidavit and have it stamped, like certified copy of my original, right? And this is enough. But recently, like this last year, I know that some of my mentees had to like go to the embassy of that country, right, of the host country, to have their documents legalized. So I think it's perhaps something that has come up over the years, if they have had not the best experience from people from certain countries, that they start increasing some of this scrutiny. But you see, some would just say submit, others would want you to go and do the legalization and submit and send a hard copy. So you would have to do the online and then the hard copy. Now, once you're shortlisted, you will be invited. I think when I invited, most of the programs do this. So again, I said, I don't want to like generalize, but that each person should know that you cannot transfer what you are doing in program A to program B, even though they are both on Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, right? You have to treat them as different because they are actually different. So, but for most of the programs, once you have been shortlisted for, once you have done the application, you will be shortlisted for an interview, right? And so after the interview, they will now release their final list. Most times you have people on the first list, then you have people on the reserve list.
Okay.
And in general, some programs, the early programs start in September, October. Like now, some of the programs have opened, and the last programs open around January, February. But most times around March, you should have been done with your application. But I strongly advise people that want to apply to already have everything ready, because some programs will not give you 1 month to close the application, right? So some of them are really quite fast. So you have to be kind of ready just before the applications open.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much. Now, I picked something from what you said. You said some people get shortlisted for scholarships, while some people get shortlisted and they have to fund themselves. Now, I'm wondering, why go through if you're going to fund yourself, why go through Erasmus Mundus? Why don't you just go straight up? Are there benefits just being attached to Erasmus Mundus even when you're funding yourself, or is just a protocol?
So basically, it's a very interesting master's, right? And if you compare the cost of a typical master's program versus what you would pay even as a self-funded student,
Okay.
is very low. So I give you an example. In the program that I did, those that were on Erasmus Mundus Scholarship had to pay a tuition fee of 8,000 euros per year. So that's 16,000 for 2 years. Those that were on self-funding were to pay 4,000 per year. Now, that 4,000, by being part of the program, you get access to everything, right? The network, the different trainings. So nobody is you cannot really differentiate those that are on scholarship and those that are self-funded. You don't really differentiate once they're in class, and so you have access to everything that all benefits. So I think at the end of the day, if you should compare it with a regular master's abroad, it's still very, very competitive. And of course, on top, another point that you need to consider is that if you were to do a regular master's, right? Say you were to do a master's in the UK on self-funding, you'll be paying almost 3 times that amount per year.
Of course. Wow. Okay. So you mentioned that you get at least double honors. So that's to say that you get to travel to at least 2 countries, right? In
Yes,
Europe.
that's the criteria. Yes.
So at least two, at most what?
I've actually seen people that are going to 4 universities.
Wow. Within a space of
And
2 years.
but it's not fun.
Yeah, because it's 66 months. So like within a space, what
So
can you really?
some are less. So the transition could be less. What happens is that you have to be in 2 different universities, in 2 different countries, not just 2 different universities. The universities cannot be in the same country. For some programs, like in my program, when we started, we were splitted into 2 groups. Okay, so the first group, or let me say one group, not the first group. One group started in France, in Grenoble, in France, and our own group started in Augsburg, in Germany, right? Now, after the first 1 year, we now had to do mobility to the next university, and they have to do some choosing and criteria. So you have 7 universities that are part of this program. Students are in 2 universities in the first year. Now it means that for every student there is at least 3 other universities they can go, because the second universities are in that same country. So I couldn't go from Augsburg in Germany to Darmstadt, which is also in Germany, right? I could only move to France, to Belgium.
Wow.
Okay, so for those people that were already in France, they couldn't come to Bordeaux, which is also in France. They had to move out. So I moved to Bordeaux. Many of them, some came to Augsburg, some went to Darmstadt, some went to the Louvre and other universities, in the other university in Belgium. But at the end of the day, you have to distribute the students. Now, if everybody wanted to go to one university, they will now start doing some ranking, right? So they will check your performance, and the best people or the top in the class would decide to
Yeah.
get the first preference, versus you that is not performing best, or you that is a bit not performing like the other students. So, but at most, for some other students, they do the first year in one university, and they move to the second university and they do like 3 months, and then they move to the third university and stay for the next 1 year or the next 9 months. For some other students, I have a mentee now that is started in Italy for 1 year, moved to the UK for 6 months, and he has to now move also to Japan. Actually, he's coming to Japan.
Japan part of Erasmus Mundus, you in
Yes,
Europe.
yes, yes.
How come?
So Erasmus Mundus has, like I said, the program. So the Erasmus Mundus Masters itself is not limited to Europe, right?
Okay.
Most universities are in Europe, but you also have collaborations with other universities around the world. like the UK, for instance. I think in my time, there were also some collaborations with universities in Canada.
Okay, okay.
And in terms of the structure, you have 4 semesters, right? Like for any regular master's and program. And so you have the first 3 semesters, which are basically something you have to do in class or labs or whatever. Then the fourth semester is your thesis, right? For your master's thesis. Now, for some people, you could decide to stay in to do your thesis in a university, and you are free to go where you want to go. So you are free to even, you could have started in Germany and moved to the next country for 6 months, and you want to come back to Germany for your master thesis, that is fine. There's no, as long as your second university is okay with students doing their masters abroad, that works. Then for some people, they go to the industry and do the 6 months. But I think during the course of this interview, I would give my own perspective of where you should aim at, depending on what you want to do after your masters.
Oh, okay. So now, like, yeah, I get the fact that you can collaborate with other, like you said, you get to collaborate with other countries as much as possible. But then the major thing here is that you get to travel within Europe. So I want to ask, is it open to all countries in Europe, or they have a list of countries in Europe?
It depends on the programs, right?
Okay.
What I've noticed so far is that a lot of the collaborations, because remember, if we are friends and we are working in a similar field, you are in Japan, I'm in Germany, we decide to create a program, right? And then we put it out there and we get the funding. We bring in students and we say, okay, the first year they are in Japan, some are in Germany, and we swap them after. So this is just the way that this collaboration is done. It's really it's really at the level of departments, not even the university as a whole. Really, departments, certain research groups coming together and forming this consortium and creating a program out of it. Now, for the master's degree, the thesis, the degree that you get would depend on, first you have your first university, right? And at least I know of, but not very frequent, that someone said they would get 3 different degrees. So typically you get 2, right? But someone had told me that he could get from the 3 different universities that he would be part of.
Well, like I think I've seen someone actually write somewhere that's 3 degree something, and my mind, the first place my mind went to was this has to be Erasmus Mundus. This has to be Erasmus Mundus that will pull this kind of stunt. Okay, now just in case you're wondering, Casey is your mentor's mentor. You know what I mean by your mentor's mentor? The mentor that mentors your mentor. He's a very amazing mentor, and if you enter LinkedIn and you don't know Casey, please, which version of LinkedIn are you on? Because every day you wake up, you see his mentees, testifying to getting scholarship and all those things. So I want to ask a question that I feel like you will have a very good perspective to. During this process of applying to this scholarship, what are the common mistakes you have really seen students, applicants, common mistakes that are easily like unavoidable? You can just talk about it and advise appropriately.
Yeah, so I think the first is like underestimating how much work it is to apply for a scholarship. I think you also have very good experience with something like this. So I've gotten people that approach me and tell me something like, "I want you to help me and apply for the scholarship." I'm like, "Okay." Means you don't know what you want to do. And sometimes it always come out like, "Oh, you don't want to help." No, you don't know what you want to do, because applying for a scholarship is a whole job. And once you realize that, that's the first thing that I tell my mentees. Like you mentioned, for one, I do not have like a miracle center where people come and then they make a scholarship happens. No, this is not the point. It's not even close. What I do feel, and which I know for sure is true, is that people that persist always win. Not
Yeah.
just persisting in the wrong direction. In fact, one of my big first ideology, or one of my ideologies, is that direction over speed. Okay, first get your direction right. Don't worry about speed. As long as your direction is correct, you would get there. It's just a matter of time. And as long as you are in the right direction, but if you are in the wrong direction, even if you are the fastest, you are in the wrong direction. So from the ab initials, you're already wrong. Okay. So
Started
once
for doom.
exactly you are just running, no direction. So the point here is that once you first realize that yes, scholarship is a job, it takes time, it takes effort. In fact, in some cases, it takes money,
Yeah.
and you should be ready to make those sacrifices. I don't know about for some people, but I didn't apply and get a scholarship in 1 year. I applied consistently for 3 years,
Wow.
right? Yes, for 3 years. First year when I was in the fourth year, second time when I was in the final year, third time when I was 7, right? And each time, which is something else that I want to mention here, that applicants should consider and trust the process. If
Mm.
you if you read some of most of my posts, I always talk about process. The reason is because you are not failing because you did not get the scholarship. That is not failure. That is experience that you can leverage on in your next application and in the next application, and you keep persisting. So the first one that I noticed a lot of people make, yes, is definitely taking it for granted. I've had scenarios where people come to me because one of the things that I always tell my mentees upfront is tell me what scholarships you want to apply this year. Don't just tell me. Make a file, make a table, outline the scholarships. Tell me what those scholarships require. What is the requirement of each of these scholarships? What do you have with respect to those requirements? What can you have that you don't have at the moment? When can you have it? Will it fit into the timeline, the deadline of these scholarships? If not, then focus on those that you have the best chance, right? And because when you start looking at, which comes to the second one, not following instructions. Okay, so a lot of people just take instructions for granted. You are asked to submit a hard copy. No, you are asked to post, to send by post. You don't do it, or you are asked to apply before a particular deadline. You apply, even if you apply 1 minute late. These people, that I mean, that is a selection criteria.
Yeah.
It's a screening criteria. So you can, if you like, explain yourself from now. Tell them you were submitting and internet went off and you got it the next day. That is grammar. So you have to keep to instructions. Remember, you are the one looking for something, not getting from someone.
Yeah.
So following instructions is definitely something that I've seen people take for granted, right? And the other aspect that I notice a lot is undermining the importance of creating good relationship with your professors now, such that when the time comes, you have people say,
Reference
I don't
letter.
have exactly, I cannot get reference. And this is very, very important in your application. In fact, the 4 points that I think are very necessary for Erasmus Mundus is one, your CV, right? Two, your motivation letter or letter of statement, statement of purpose, the reference or recommendation, right? And in some instances, your English proficiency. So for some programs, they would allow you to submit this, they call it letter of English language as a first language, letter of proficiency from your university. They call it exemption letter, right, for English language. And this is good. If your program allows you to submit, it's perfect. Now, remember, if it comes to selection, you would not get an upper hand than someone that has submitted if that comes to their selection. Sometimes they will not use it. If they say they don't need it, perhaps they will not use it as one of their selection criteria. But if you are tied with someone and they may now have to find what could differentiate these two people,
Okay.
one has an exemption, the other person has a TOEFL exam, then the person gets an upper hand. So I always advise people, if you can afford the exam, please write it. So consider it as an investment, but it's definitely something that you want to be prepared. And another point that is important is the aspect about, or the concept about more is better. Is not true, right? Some people think that by applying to all scholarships that they see, they increase their chances, but that's not the truth, right? If you apply just for the sake of fulfilling all righteousness, you waste your time,
Yeah.
and you cannot put it luck as a criteria to determine that you will be selected. I mean, someone will not tell you, if you do not have a degree in physics, don't apply. And you have a degree in biology and you apply and say they would not see it. Somehow they would not consider it, So don't apply where you are not eligible,
Yes.
where you are not, where you are not eligible.
Where they
So
did not call you, don't go.
don't go. Choose where you go. Of course, I'm a very big fan of shooting your shot, but also know where you are shooting them, right? In fact, what I always advise people is that be free to approach these coordinators. They are approachable, they are reachable. In every program, you have a coordinator. You would find their email on the website, on the official website of the program. If you have a degree that is not called out in their requirement, write them. I'm so person, I have this degree. I did not see it in the requirement. Can I be considered, considering that I have done so experience in that line or in that area that they are looking for? You might get that. You might even be said, yeah, don't worry, apply, we would consider it. Or they tell you, no, don't apply, we cannot consider. And then you don't even bother to push it, right? Just focus that energy where you can win, right? So really knowing where you should play is also a very important advice that I will share. Then another aspect is like in terms of the CV, right? Personalizing your CV for every program you're applying. Again, remember, I started by saying that applying for scholarship is a job. It's a job. And to be sincere, Choma, when I first applied or I started applying, this was not the time where you could get internet on your phone or no. We had to go to the cyber cafe, sleep overnight on computers. You don't even want to imagine what we had to
Wake up midnight. Network used to be
exactly
stronger in the night.
in the night. Exactly. So it was not funny and it wasn't easy. And to be sincere, when someone doesn't really realize this part, then you easily come out and say, oh, I've been applying, I'm not getting it. It's good. Get it as an experience, but also know what you are doing. So your CV needs to be personalized. What do I mean by personalizing your CV? You're applying for a program. The first thing you need to do is to know what the program is all about. That is the first lesson. Know what the program is about. Then know how you tailor that program into your CV. Like, let your CV be such that when someone looks at your CV, they say, oh, this person is what we need. You have to be an ID candidate, right? Who is an ID candidate? That's always the question. How do you become an ID candidate? Is not someone that is ideal. No, it's someone that becomes ideal to the position, right? So to become an ID candidate, you have to become that position. You have to become the person that position is looking for. And how do you become the person that position is looking for? Remember that every program has an objective. They have what they want to achieve. You have to be looking for what they are trying to give, and you need to have what they are looking for, because what they are looking for is what they have determined as a criteria for them to achieve what they want to get. So you have to become that criteria. And nobody is going to say that, oh, but Choma, your interest has always been this. That's not the point. You have to become the other interest, because you are not coming there to say, I am this guy, I am this background. Your background is different from what I have, but you have to give me the scholarship. It doesn't work. So making your CV to become the program that you're applying for, it doesn't mean you go and take their requirement, copy and paste in your CV. No. You have to read it, understand it, digest it, bring it out into your own experience, like the specific areas that they're interested in. Maybe you already have some experience. Even your undergraduate bachelor degrees or courses that you did could become a determining factor for the programs that you're applying for. Maybe you have done one particular course that is what they're even looking for. It's not your degree, but there's something that you have done. Maybe you have even had an experience, and that will be the differentiating part for you on your CV that you will not put in another application. So make sure your CV is personalized for each program. So imagine if you now say you have 6, 7, 8 scholarships to apply, then I begin to wonder where you would find all the time. Right?
Yeah. Very true. There's something I picked up, but before I ask the next question, let me just go back to that before I forget it. So you did your double degree in Germany and Italy, right?
France.
Germany and France. So is it before you start the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, you already know the two countries, or is it while you're on it that you get to know as in the second country?
Most times, like in my time, you could know depending on the program. So some programs will already have you to. In fact, some programs would ask during your application to justify your mobility. Okay, so some programs would ask you like, now you want to apply to this master's program. Could you tell us what would be your preferred mobility?
Okay.
Right? And so means your preferred mobility, like most times you have to think what is offered in each of those schools. So you have to go to the specific program or specific department of that program in University A, check the one in University B, check all of these, and use it as your criteria to determine why you want to go to A first and go to B.
Yeah.
Now, some people keep it, some programs keep it. What you have selected and you are accepted for, you cannot change it. For some programs, they bring everybody to one university. And after their first year, they will now ask you to choose towards the end of your first year where you want to go next. And this is where they will now start ranking based on performance, who goes where. If everybody wants to go to A, then they will now
Yeah.
start determining, okay, we have 5 people that want to go to A, we need 3. So we take the best 3 people of the class to go to A, and then the other ones have to go to the B. So yeah, but again, depending on the program, some of these mobilities are fixed from the beginning or during the first year.
So how did it work for you? Fixed from beginning or during the first year?
Yes, so mine was fixed from beginning because if I got a funding that was tied to a particular university, right? So the university was like, fine, yeah, we are going to support your program, but you would only get it if you come to our university. I say, of course, I have no preference. And I think I was fortunate in that case, very, very fortunate because this other school was specific on chemistry. So chemistry was their core. So it was like they said, oh, go to the school that does all the chemistry. Of course, that's where I would
Why
go.
not? Okay, okay, that's nice. Okay, Casey, you are a mentor's mentor, right? And I'm very sure that it's not everybody that is watching my YouTube that maybe I know majority knows you, yes, but maybe not everybody. So is it okay for me to ask, is your mentorship program still ongoing? Can my people attach themselves? Those, yeah, I get you. Because you said, yeah, it's usually speed, sorry, direction over speed. And I see my idea of what mentorship is it gives you direction when you are ready to put in the work to the person gives you. So is the mentorship program still ongoing? And if it's still ongoing, just tell us, can I put your link in the description box or something?
So that's a tricky one. And there, so let me put it this way. Most times, like in a lot of instances, I do support as much as I can. In
Yeah.
fact, this morning I was just correcting some essays for someone that is applying for one scholarship. She's a connection, so not a mentee. I mean, the point here is that you are not in my mentorship platform doesn't exclude you from some class of elite that Casey cares more about. So
Okay, okay.
for me, it's always a matter of how to be more efficient in managing large groups. At the moment, we are over 300. And so the 300 is only because the earlier people are supporting the new people. I cannot do it, right? It's
Yeah.
just think about it. It's almost impossible. We do have weekly sessions where we can interact and talk, but short of the long story, at this moment, we just had an opening that closed about 2 months ago. I don't know if a lot of them maybe saw this opening on LinkedIn. And so at this very time, this very instance, we are not taking new mentees. Well, like, let me put it, we are not adding new people to the group, but we are working on building a bit more systematic platform that will allow that would allow people to come in and be able to get the support they need. Because the challenge now is when you have different category of people coming in at different levels or different times, it's difficult to carry everybody along because some are lagging and some are, so it's just so complicated. But you can share my LinkedIn profile. People can always reach me. They can always ask questions. I have on different platforms created specific videos that would, in fact, I think I will give you this link that you include on your on the video, where people can really watch a step-by-step guidance for applying for scholarships, specifically this Erasmus Mundus. I think it would explain even what I've done here in a bit more calm, in a bit more systematic, in a bit more like basically holding somebody by the hand and walking them through. I thought about how people that have no idea on scholarships, by watching this video, you would know even where to click and where not to click. So it's that baby step. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. On behalf of everybody too, thank you very much. Okay, now, but can you like give, because you said something about towards the end of the video, or in the video you talk about, advice as regards in case of what you want to do after and all those things. So can you just tell us, give us advice, give tips, give advice from personal experience, from experiences of other people you've come in contact with, or whatever, just advice generally.
What I would say is that, like I would always tell my mentees, on the platform, scholarship is not the end. It's, scholarship doesn't mean you have arrived. Okay, it doesn't mean now I can relax, or it doesn't mean now I know what I'm doing. No. So one of my, I think most people know me by that saying, like, see, we all win, we are always work in progress, right? So what does that mean in terms of direction? It means that yes, you have gotten the scholarship, there is work in front of you, but think about the next step. Where do you want to be, right? Do you want to go into PhD after your master's, or do you want to go to the industry?
Mm,
Or do you want to even have a startup? That
mm,
should already be clear within the first year. Where what direction do you want to go? Now, why this is important is that most times, when I say most times, a lot of times, professors that retain master students for PhDs retain their own students. I think you have this experience, right? They would rather retain someone that they have been with
yeah.
versus someone that is coming in new.
Mm,
So if a professor has an open position, he would likely take a student from his master's class,
program.
or a student, not master's class, let me correct it, a student that has done a master thesis in his or her lab.
Yeah.
They have seen how you can work, so they are more comfortable to say, okay, continue with the PhD. So if you want to stay in academia, if you want to do your PhD after your master's, after this master's or any other master's you're doing, so because I think this is even more broad, not just for Erasmus Mundus masters, but any masters you have done, if you want to be in academia, please do your internship, your thesis in a lab, okay? Look for a professor that you can do your internship or your thesis with. Then towards the, like, even let's say 2 months, 3 months into your master thesis, already start telling the professor, don't be shy, that you would want to do a PhD. If they don't have a position, try to get them to recommend you to their
Oh,
colleagues.
yes.
Exactly. It gives you a big opportunity, a big chance, versus someone that just came on their own. So that
Yeah.
is important. Now, if you don't want to go to like do a PhD, you want to move into an industry, then do your master thesis in an industry.
Okay.
Okay. Don't do your master thesis in an industry and start looking for a PhD. It's much more tricky, because what will be your basis of applying
Experience.
for a PhD, of experience, as research experience? How will you be able to convince people? It becomes more complicated. So if you want to stay in the industry, in fact, most industries tend to retain their interns or people that have done their master thesis with them. Or
Mm.
at least, even if they don't retain you, you have an experience that you
Connection.
can use
Yes.
exactly to push to stay in another position in another industries. So these two, and it's the same discussion I'm going to even say for someone that finishes a PhD, right? For PhD, at the end of PhD is a bit more tricky, and I think we can talk about this on some other time. But since the focus here is for masters and guidance, please already think about what direction you want to go, and don't be shy to reach out to people. Okay, what is the worst you can get? No, but you already have no even before starting. So why not just go ahead?
Wow. Wow. Like I feel like I now know so much about Erasmus Mundus. I started this interview with little the major thing I know about Erasmus Mundus is that you are sure just being a tourist while studying. Because
Exactly what they do.
I just see people tourists giving us pictures back to back. So well now, well now, like I really like get at least to a certain degree what it actually entails, and I didn't even know that there were so many categories inside one Erasmus Mundus actually. So it's actually
Mhm.
nice to have had.
And now just before we leave, before I forget, there's one point that I didn't explain earlier, and it's very, very important because it could mean someone that is qualified doesn't get the scholarship.
Wow.
That's because there are two categories of Erasmus Mundus scholarship. There is one that is called for EU citizens, right? And there's the other one that is for developing countries. I think it's called partners, right? Um, so you have to make sure you select the one that is supposed to be your own category. So most times it's the partners. So partners is for developing countries, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure when you go to apply, read, they will tell you category A. They call it category A and B. B is for the developing countries. And the B category is the one that pays more actually, because you are coming from, consider you're coming from a far country versus someone that lives in the EU. And you also have like some requirements, like eligibility requirement, like you should have not lived in the EU for up to 12 months. Someone missed the scholarship because he selected category A, but he is supposed to be in category B. That's it. There is no way to go around it. It's done. You don't get it back. So please, everyone should make sure they
Avoid.
again, it comes back to making sure instructions.
Yeah, to read the instructions very well.
Instructions.
Wow, thank you very much, Casey, for this powerful, like this is powerful session. Like you just educated us, like you sat us down, schooled us. So guys, I'm going to put the link to his LinkedIn handle right in the description box
Yeah,
and
and the
the
video.
video he's talking about that you should also watch for step by step, like more
Yeah.
detailed procedures.
Subscribe to her channel. Amazing content.
All right, guys, don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. See you next time on Chilo Talks. Bye for now.
Bye bye.